Yep.
Nobody claustrophobic or anything.
Fine.
All right, we'll go up here. Hey folks, I'd like to give you a little history here to start off with. This old mine was known as the Phillips family coal mine. It was started mining in 1890 and they mined till 1910. The mine sat idle for until 1962 when the city of Beckley bought it and rehabbed it to do this tours in. And what they mined coal for back then was house coal for heating and cooking. So, back then didn't have electricity, no gas at that time, but they did use it for that. The coal seam is the Sewell seam. It run anywhere from 28 to 42 inches in this area. So you can imagine in that height, you was crawling. Unless you're a short person, then you might duck walk. But it was, it was tough going. But as whenever you open up the coal seam, as you're mining it, you release gases. And the main gas that you release is methane. Methane is natural gas. Only difference is the gas that we use at home, the gas company puts a chemical in it so you can smell it and taste it. But the methane in its natural state is colorless, odorless, tasteless, lighter than air. And because of that, back in the day, back in 1890 or early 1900s, they had no way of detecting gas to know that it was there. And they found out in that time that the little canary bird, that the physiology that would know that there was a change in the atmosphere, there was something there. And the miners learned that, and so they carried the canary with them in a cage like this, and they put it in the workplace with them. So whenever as long as that bird was singing, they knew everything was good. But if something happened, that bird quit singing, and he realized there was something wrong, and he could get himself out of there and make changes to his ventilation to make sure that he didn't get himself in trouble. But they used the canaries there for a while. Then they finally developed what they call a flame safety light, possum light. Like I said, methane, lighter than air. It's going to be up on top. With the flame safety light, you put it up against the top, you watch your flame. If that flame starts to elongate, you have methane. So you'd make arrangements to get rid of it. Also, with the flame safety light, you could check for oxygen deficiency. Low O2, or they call it black band. It's heavier than air. It's going to be on the bottom. You put your lamp down next to the bottom, you watch your flame. If it starts to go out, then you knew you had low O2. So you'd work again to get rid of it. We carried the flame safety light until about 1999. They finally were able to develop a sensor to detect oxygen deficiency. That was the main thing. We had handheld detectors for methane for years, but they couldn't really get a reliable sensor for oxygen until the mid-90s, and then they finally outlawed the possum light and started using the handheld detectors. Talking about loading the coal, whenever this little 1-ton car of coal, that right there for a coal miner was 20 cents. Wow. That's what he made for that ton of coal that he loaded when they went out. They say a good loader could load between 10 and 12 tons a day. You're in a shift, so you do the math. He's making $2.40 a day. The cars, they were provided with a little old hood on the car to put his tag. He had a tag with his, that was his payroll number. That's how he got paid. And that's how he got his credit for his car, his coal. Whenever he'd load the car, hang a tag on the car, it'd go out. Only problem was that sometimes you run into some unscrupulous individuals that would be out on the track whenever the cars would come by. They'd flip that tag off and put their tag on. That way they got credit for a ton of coal they didn't load, and somebody come up short. Miners they figured out something wasn't right, and so what they did, they started nailing their tag to a block of wood like this. Whenever the empty car was pushed into the place for them to load, first thing they would do, they would put their tag in the bottom of the car. That way, whenever they load their coal on top of it, whenever it went outside, when the coal was dumped, their tag was on top. So they made sure they got their credit for their coal loaded. Like I said, you think about $2 to $2.40 a day. And the bad part about it was he had to pay for everything that he used. He had to pay for his shovel, his pick, his axe, his saw, his powder, the papers that he used for his shots, his fuses that he shot with, everything. He had to buy it. And the only place he could buy it was a company store. The companies back then paid in scrip. They didn't pay in regular currency. They printed their own. That way you were captivated. You were right there. There's nothing you could do but buy from them. In the back then, whenever they worked, when miners first, they're in the 1890s when they first started mining here, they wore a soft hat, like your baseball caps. And they mounted a candle on the front of that hat. That's what they used for a light. The candle would burn for about an hour, and then they'd have to replace it. So they'd have to carry 12, 14, 15 candles with them a day to make sure that they had enough light for the full shift. The candle had to be bought at the company store. So then somebody come up, developed, invented, whatever, what they call a little teapot. Teapot, you had a wick that come out of this neck and went down into this tank. It would use either lamp oil, kerosene, and they found out later on that they could use bacon grease. So they cut a little bit of cost that way because they had to buy their bacon at the company store. Whenever the wife would fry up the bacon, she would save the grease. And then he could carry it with him and have his fuel for his teapot. And the teapot would burn for about 2 hours. And then it would have to be refilled. So, that worked good. And then sometime later, somebody come up with what we call a carbide light. You ever heard of carbide? It's a mineral. Whenever you wet it, it causes a chemical reaction. That chemical reaction makes acetylene. If you ever heard of an acetylene torch, it's going to pop. Not too bad. But as you can see, with this, you have one big improvement. You have this reflector around behind the flame, and it's going to get dark. As you can see, that's how much light he had to work by. And you can imagine with this, at least with that reflector, you have your light there where you're looking. You think about it with a candle and with that little teapot with that wick sticking up there, all you have is the flame. And that was, that light was what you had right there. So that makes a whole lot better. I don't know if you ever heard of firebossing. Firebossing is it's a pre-shift examination that is made of the mine prior to the miners going to work. And the fireboss earned their name literally because what they did back in the day was they would go into the mine and make their safety run. And their primary job was to check and make sure there wasn't any methane accumulated in the workplace. So what they did was they run their flame right along the top. If there's any methane there, it would burn off, and just hopefully there wasn't any big pockets. Because it could cause flash burns real quick. But the fireboss, like I said, they earned their name because that's what they did. They burnt the gas off, and right there is how it looks.
Yeah.
It gets dark.
How long did that last?
This thing would burn for about 4 hours. So needless to say, he had to learn how to work in the dark because he'd have to empty out his little pot here, put fresh carbide in, and then relight it. Yeah, unless he had to load him some more water in his tank. Yeah, so they learned how to work in the dark, or else they'd catch it when one of their buddies was around, there with a light. That way he could do his job there, have a little bit of light to work by.
So most of these guys weren't working side by side, did you? They're on the way.
You work by yourself because that's why you got paid. Yeah. The only other people you would probably see would be the team. Those guys that was driving the teams, because this car, it was pulled by animals. It started out with either large dogs, goats, ponies, or donkeys. So he might see the team driver whenever he comes in to bring his car, pick up his load, and to drop him off a empty. That would be, and then I'm sure there'd probably a boss come through every once in a while just checking to make sure everything was okay. But that's the mine. They couldn't load any rock. They put a little rock on that little car over there, that 2-ton car on the other side, just to show if a miner had rock in his coal on his car, that 20 cents might be down to 15 cents or 10 cents. He was fined for rock in the coal. So they had to separate their rock from the coal as they were loading it, if they had any rock that come in whenever they shot the coal or whatever. So it was, and like this little coal mine, whenever they mined it, they only mined that coal with the exception they would take enough rock in the haulage entry that the cars were taken in and out by because of the animals, just to give them the clearance that they needed to pull the cars. But that's, again, get back to the lighting there. After the carbide light, they come up with a battery-powered, what they call a permissible cap light. Had a battery that they bore on their belt, and had a cord with a light piece, a headpiece that was sealed so that it wouldn't ignite the methane. And those would burn 10, 12 hours. So that was on a charge. So that was a lot better. Now we've got the whole LED headpieces that's got everything in one, one compact unit. And these things, I've had them to work for up to 24 hours on a charge. So they do a good job now. And technology, it is good. Any questions? We'll move around next stop and show you what that miner had to do to prepare that coal to load it. Okay, what the miner had to do whenever he come into the space there first time, he'd have to take his pick, and he would have to pick at the bottom of the seam, the coal seam, right up next to the rock bottom. He would pick right along from one side to the other, and they would pick about 4 foot depth. And what you're doing is you're making an undercut to give the coal someplace to go whenever you put off a shot. After he did his picking, then he would get his hand drill, breast auger, if you will. Puts his chest into it right here, and then he just starts turning the auger, keeping pressure on it. He drills 3 holes, one in the center and one on each side. After he got his holes drilled, then he would get his powder bag, get his black powder out, load up shots. He'd make him up three shots. He would put the shots in each place. Then he would take his tamping rod. He would tamp the powder back into the back of the hole on all 3 shots, then put some clay in and tamp the clay up against the powder. What he's doing there, you're confining the shot. Because if you just left the powder open, it'd be just like a gun barrel. It would just shoot right back out. So what he'd do, after he to empty his clay in, he'd take a pick like this, and he would drill him a hole through the clay into the powder in all three places, and then he would feed his fuse back into the powder. He would tie his three shots together and then put in a little bit more fuse, depending on how far he had to go and how fast he was. He would call out, "Fire, fire, fire in the hole." And then he would light the fuse and run around the corner, wait for the shot to go off. Once his shot went off, then he'd wait a couple of minutes, let the smoke and the dust settle down, and then they would push his car in and you start loading. And like I said, if you notice, they got the rock stacked up here on the sides. That's what he'd have to do if he had any rock that would come in with the coal. He would separate that rock and just stack it up on the sides so that he wouldn't get fined for having rock in his coal. With that one shot, he would get 4 cars. So he's gonna have to shoot 3 times, at least 3 times a day, to get his 12 cars of coal, if that's what he was able to load. And this old machine here, they call it electric punching machine, it took the place of the pick. Said that they could take it and punch the coal out like you did with the pick. But it had to come along a lot later because it is electric and didn't have electricity around in the coal mines until, I'm not really sure, it was probably in the late 20s, early 30s, around here probably. And, you know, with, that's part of, I guess, starting of the mechanization. Over on the other side of the track there, behind me is the coal loading machine. That's the beginning of mechanization. That machine there was mid to late 40s model.
What's the origin of that machine? Because I think last time I was here, they said Columbus, Ohio, or not? Was that machine?
That could have been.
I think, because that was my hometown. I remember seeing the...
Jeffrey. Yeah, Jeffrey machine.
Yeah.
But that took the place of a whole lot of miners. Mm-hmm. You know, did away with a lot of the coal loaders then. All you had to do was have one or two equipment operators to do it. The little orange machine there beside of it is a coal scoop. They are a very versatile piece of equipment that is used today. They're either battery or diesel powered now, and they use them to keep the sections cleaned up. Also haul their supplies with them. They're used to carry and lift heavy equipment components like motors and pumps and stuff on the equipment that they run now. It's a backsaver in a lot of ways, but it's they are very versatile and very good to use. Any questions? We'll move down to the next one and talk a little bit more about the mechanization.